10 footballers you didn't know actually exist. Did you know there was a goalkeeper who was considered too short to even play football, but still became one of the greatest of his generation? Before we get into the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and turn on notifications so you never miss another insane football story from the Football Vault. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Jorge Campos, standing at just 5 foot 6 inches tall, a height that should have completely ruled the easiest part, he's just one of the unbelievable players in this video. Because today, we're diving into footballers who defied logic. Like the goalkeeper who played professionally while going blind. The man who survived a plane crash and then became the best player in the world. And even a player who was born with a body doctors said would never function normally, yet became a global icon. Tim Howard, the goalkeeper who fought his own mind. Being a goalkeeper requires one thing above everything else: focus. But what if your own brain was constantly fighting against you, telling you to do random things, forcing you to act on impulses you can't control, until your heart starts racing and your body won't relax unless you obey? That was the reality for Tim Howard. Growing up, Howard suffered from Tourette's syndrome, a neurological condition that causes involuntary tics, movements, and compulsions. And as if that wasn't enough, he was also diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder, a double burden that should have ended his football dreams before they even began. On the pitch, his mind would constantly interrupt him, telling him to touch the goalpost, adjust his gloves, repeat small actions over and over again. But then something strange would happen. The moment the ball came near him, everything else disappeared. The noise, the urges, the chaos, gone. Just the ball. That hyperfocus became his superpower. Even when teachers didn't believe his condition was real, even when people doubted him, Howard kept training, hour after hour, imagining himself as Pele, turning his condition into an advantage. Eventually, his talent became impossible to ignore. He was selected for the U.S. Olympic Development Program, then earned a dream move to Manchester United. But football is brutal. One mistake, one moment, can change everything. A late error in the Champions League against Porto shattered his confidence, and he was eventually sold. For many players, that's where the story ends. For Howard, that's where it really began. At Everton, he rebuilt himself. Over 400 appearances, a club legend, nicknamed the Secretary of Defense. And on the world stage, he delivered one of the greatest goalkeeping performances in history. At the 2014 World Cup against Belgium, he made 16 saves, a record that still stands today. From a kid battling his own mind to one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Edgar Davids, the player who was going blind. Now imagine trying to play football while slowly losing your sight. That was the reality for Edgar Davids. Early in his career, Davids looked like any other rising star, but everything changed after a serious head injury. Years later, his vision began to deteriorate. He was diagnosed with glaucoma, a condition that damages the optic nerve and can lead to complete blindness. Without surgery, his career and his vision would be over. After undergoing treatment in 1999, Davids faced a new challenge. He could only continue playing if he wore protective goggles, something never seen at the top level before. He needed special approval from FIFA just to step onto the pitch. And even when he got it, the problems didn't stop. His goggles would fog up mid-game, affecting his vision even more. Opponents mocked him, including Jaap Stam, who joked that he looked like he was going skiing. But Davids didn't care. He turned that image into something iconic. With his aggressive style, his relentless energy, and his unmistakable look, he became one of the most recognizable players in football. Playing for giants like Juventus, Barcelona, and Inter Milan, he proved that even losing your sight couldn't stop greatness. Alex Sanchez, the one-handed footballer. Now think about this. Football is a sport built on balance, coordination, and physical control. So what happens when you're born with only one hand? For most people, that would be the end of the dream, but not for Alex Sanchez. He started playing just for fun. But it quickly became clear he was different. At just 15 years old, he got his chance with Real Zaragoza, breaking through the ranks and eventually making history. When he stepped onto the pitch in La Liga, he became the first player ever to do it with only one hand. But the biggest challenge wasn't football. It was everything around it. The pressure, the media, the criticism. At just 20 years old, he was thrown into the spotlight. And not all of it was positive. After leaving Spain's top division, his career became a journey. Australia, India, lower leagues, constant movement, constant doubt. But he kept going. And at 34 years old, when most players are finished, he made one last statement. Top scorer in India's top division, proving that even with a physical limitation, he could still dominate. Sebastian Haller, the player who beat cancer. Some players fight opponents, others fight something much bigger. Sebastian Haller had just secured the biggest move of his career, joining Borussia Dortmund. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. Just days later, he was diagnosed with testicular cancer. His world collapsed overnight. Surgery, chemotherapy, pain, uncertainty. At one point, he didn't even know if he would survive. But Haller refused to give up. After months of treatment, he came back. And not just to play, to dominate. In a return match, he scored a hat-trick in minutes. And then, he went even further. At the Africa Cup of Nations, he scored the winning goal in the semi-final, leading Ivory Coast to victory on home soil. From cancer patient to national hero. Adebayo Akinfenwa, the Beast. Now, some players are told they're too small. Others are told they're too big. Adebayo Akinfenwa was told both. Weighing over 100 kilograms with unbelievable strength, he didn't fit the traditional footballer image. Clubs rejected him, doubted him, over and over again. So he left England and took a risk in Lithuania. Then came setbacks, racism, rejections, failed medicals. At one point, he even went on live TV begging for a club to sign him. But he never stopped. Eventually, he found a home at Wycombe Wanderers. Over 200 games, fan favorite, promotion to the championship. He wasn't built like a footballer, but he proved he belonged. Petr Cech, the man who cheated death. Some stories don't even feel real. Petr Cech nearly died on the pitch. A collision, a knee to the head, a fractured skull, emergency surgery, metal plates inserted into his head. Doctors feared the worst. But Cech? He had a different mindset. Don't tell me what I can't do. Tell me what I can do. Just months later, he returned, wearing a protective helmet, something that became his signature. And somehow, he got even better. More clean sheets, more trophies, more dominance. He didn't just survive, he thrived. Gordon Banks, the half-blind legend. Now, imagine being a goalkeeper and losing your vision. That's exactly what happened to Gordon Banks. A car crash, glass in his eye, permanent damage, blind in one eye. His career should have been over. But somehow, he came back. Playing professionally in the United States, still performing, still saving shots. And unbelievably, he was named the best goalkeeper in the league. A half-blind keeper at the top of the game. Bobby Charlton, the plane crash survivor. Then there's Bobby Charlton, a man who should never have lived. The Munich air disaster changed football forever. A plane crash, devastation, teammates lost. Charlton was thrown from the wreckage, presumed dead, but he survived. And just a few years later, he became the best player in the world, winning the Ballon d'Or, winning the World Cup, leading Manchester United back to glory, from tragedy to immortality. Jorge Campos, the goalkeeper who broke the rules. And finally, we return to the man who started it all. Jorge Campos. Too short, too unconventional, too different. But instead of accepting that, he rewrote the rules. Literally. He didn't just play as a goalkeeper, he played as a striker too, scoring goals, making saves, doing both in the same match. A cheat code, a one-man anomaly. So unpredictable that FIFA had to step in and stop it. But even without that advantage, he left behind a legacy unlike any other. Garrincha, the most unbelievable of them all. And yet, even all of that doesn't compare to this final story. Garrincha, born with a deformed spine, one leg shorter than the other. Doctors said he wouldn't live normally, let alone play football. He grew up poor, wild, uneducated, but when he had the ball, magic. Defenders couldn't stop him. He humiliated them, toyed with them, changed the game. He helped Brazil win the World Cup twice, and at his peak, he was unstoppable. They called him the little bird. But in football history, he's something else entirely. From disability to disease to disaster, these players weren't supposed to succeed, but they did. And they didn't just survive football, they changed it forever. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, comment, and turn on notifications so you never miss another insane football story from the Football Vault. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.